Hello, welcome to this tutorial series on distributed system design concepts. Today we are going to look into an important topic called ID generation. So, what is ID generation? So, why do we need to think about this problem statement at all in distributed system design? That is what we first have to look into, and then we will jump into what are the possible ways and what are the possible approaches that we can have given a problem statement, and then we will see some sample code on how do we generate unique IDs and then close this. Uh, it is important to understand this concept because as part of our day-to-day life we would be persisting lot of domain entities into our database, or we will be receiving lot of events which we might need to persist it. So every event or a domain entity that we are capturing as part of business transaction or any other thing has to be identified by a particular identifier so that we may go and fetch the particular record with the identifier that is generated. Ca- uh, so that is the need of ID, right? So every time when we have to persist a record, we need to persist with a unique identifier. So there is a need for us to generate a unique identifier. That is the problem, part of the problem statement. So what is the need of unique identifier? That's what is being mentioned in the first sentence. Each of the entries has to be identified uniquely so that anybody can fetch with that identifier. The identifiers that are used to identify a record uniquely may be a numeric or of a string type. So what is an identifier? And does the identifier need to be a number? Need not be. It can be a string as well. As far as we can identify a particular record which happened as part of a transaction uniquely from the set of saved transactions or set of persisted records, then it can be numeric, it can be alphanumeric or anything which is string, right? Alphanumeric, it is okay. The main requirement is to create identifiers. So what are the ways that we can do? We can, every record that we receive, it is going to be persisted somewhere else. It can be persisted intermittently or intermediately in a topic which is in Kafka or Pulsar, Apache Pulsar, or it can get persisted intermittently in a queue which has a which is an intermittent storage, which gets introduced as part of which may get introduced as part of scalability when it comes to asynchronous processing. And finally the records gets persisted either in a blob storage, block storage, or document storage, or tabular format, whatever may be the data sources. We can think about document storage as which is Mongo, Couchbase. It can be columnar storages which is Cassandra. It can be a relational databases where we persist records in terms of tables. So so these are the places that we can save. So what are the possibilities of generating IDs in each and every of the storages that we mentioned? We need to look into. When it comes to an intermittent storages such as Kafka or message queues, we need to generate keys which uniquely identifies a record. Everything which is persist when pushed to a we need not uniquely identify a record, because if you take a message which is published to Kafka, we use key and the value. The key is to ensure that the records are sorted in that order. So that is why we need to create a key when it comes to topic partitions. It is the similar case with any intermittent systems. But when it comes to databases, if we take in terms of MongoDB, it can generate the object IDs. We can use the built-in ID generator to do it. In terms of databases, relational databases, we can use the identity columns which is auto incremented by default. It can be integer or big integer, it can automatically get incremented. Or create a ID from the backend and pass it on to databases. These are two possible ways. Either we generate ID, persist in the database, or use services which are provided by databases and use them for persistence. There are two possible ways we can do. What are the pros and cons of it? When it comes to synchronous processing, it all depends on whether we are persisting the records synchronously or asynchronously. What is asynchronous persistence? We accept the request and then send back the user with a particular response code, which might be the ID, which somebody has to look into it when they come for the next, and we asynchronously persist the record. Is it applicable? Yes. For example, consider when we are accepting an order for online shopping. Somebody says that these are the a customer who shops can come and say that these are the items that I need, and this is my order. Do we need to persist the entire order to the backend storage before we say okay to the downstream to the backend system? Need not. We can just generate an ID and put it into a topic or a queue, and then from there we can asynchronously process the record and persist it based on whatever sharding mechanisms that we have. The purpose of the tutorial is not to go and look into the sharding mechanisms, but what am I saying is here the need is not to persist it immediately. We can persist it asynchronously. For example, when we are creating a Facebook post, or considering when we are tweeting it, so the tweets are not persisted and we are getting 200 back. An ID is generated, and the backend system will take it from that point and persist it at a later point of time. We get an unique identifier, and that unique identifier is used to identify a particular tweet or a Facebook post or a order in retail systems or online retail systems. It is applicable the same case with YouTube. It is applicable same case with Flickr or anybody. There are systems which can have asynchronous process. The need is not to do everything synchronously in terms of payment also, right? When we say that I am going and initiating a payment system, payment which has to be transferred from one person to the other person bank account is different, the source person bank account is different. We can accept a payment request and give an identifier back to the customer, which using which somebody can go and verify whether the payment is successful or not, because these operations has to pass different domains or different processes, which is far and beyond uh, the process that we are interacting with. It might have to cross organizational process, or it might have to cross through different processes within the organization. So there is a need for asynchronous persistence. That is the time we can generate IDs up in front in the backend, give it back to the customer, and then we can use the same identifier to go and persist the data in database. This is one scenario. What is the second scenario? It has to be very synchronous. For example, when we are creating a student system, or when we are creating a customer ID, which it has to be synchronous. A customer comes and creates a customer account. We cannot say that I would go and persist you asynchronously and give the ID back, go and check what is your account later. No, that is not possible. There are certain systems which require synchronous responses. For that, we can rely on databases to generate the ID and persist it. That is the option. So what we can do, we can take advantage of the unique identifiers generated by databases, which are identity columns, or the object IDs in terms of Mongo, or any other IDs which are generated by Snowflake, or whatever Apache Ignite. They all, any databases will have a mechanism to generate an incremental IDs before we persist, or while we persist it, and we can use that IDs to uniquely identify that particular record. So what is so these are the two ways. The other the other when we think about ID generation, what suddenly comes to our mind is identity columns are generated unique, universally unique identifier, which is widely used. In Microsoft terms, it is called globally unique identifiers. Many a time people will go and use this UUID as an identifier to go and persist it. We also might not know what is happening behind the scenes with UID. UIDs are so let's take a small let's take a dip into what is UUID, and what are the pros and cons of this UUID. whether can it be a solution to the ID generation problem that we are looking into, and what scenarios it can address it, and then we will step into the other ID generation algorithms or the ways of generating IDs. First, UUIDs are universally unique IDs or GUIDs. It is 128 bit in length. When we take the length, actual length of characters, which will come to 32 characters. Okay, 32 Unicode characters, which comes to 64. And so, since it is 128 bit, what is the maximum number of unique identifiers that we can generate? It is 3402823669209384634634633744607 431768211 and 456. This is the maximum number of unique IDs that we can create. So this is a pakka. It generates unique IDs irrespective of which processors are generating. So everybody in the world can go into their machine and generate a unique identifier, which would result in a unique identifier without any conflict. What is the percentage of having a clash in UUIDs that we are generate? It is far negligible, unless until this time I have not seen somebody reporting it. The unique IDs are colliding. So this is the range of values that we can generate. Whether we can generate it from laptop to servers which are going to generate, it will not collide at all. So we can guarantee that we will be generating unique IDs. But what is the UIDs has there are certain things which we need to look into. UIDs have this format. First is 12 4 4 4, again 12, 8 4 4 4 and 12. That is the format. Hyphens are for separation, but we need not worry about it. If we carefully notice about the UIDs, the UIDs that we create in Java is of type 4 UIDs, and the one which is mentioned as M and N are the version and the variant of it. We go and generate a UUID. Let's try to examine, right? UUID GENERATOR, sorry, GENERATOR UID generator. So we will be getting a UUID. If we notice it, the third will be 4. This is, you will be generating most of the time, which is called type 4 UUIDs. Whatever UIDs you generate, you might go and check. This would be most likely type 4 UIDs. What are the other types which are available? Type 5, type 1 are available. I have seen it, but the default algorithm that we go and generate UID random UID toString would always result in type 4 UIDs. So we need to understand, have a hold on that. So what are the pros and cons of these UIDs? UIDs are highly distributed. Generate UIDs from every possible machine. It will never collide. It is fast. It just takes a few not even millisecond to probably a millisecond to generate a UID. It is unique, guaranteed to be unique. It is random as well. What do we mean by randomness? I have generated a UID now. I am going to generate a new UID. UUID GENERATOR. So if you see this 98, next time I'm going to generate it is BC, which starts with BC. They are completely random. So with the first UUID, we will not be able to predict what is going to be my next UUID, which is important for certain systems. So it should be unpredictable. So these are the pros of it. Since UUIDs are 128 bit in long, which is 34 characters in length, it might occupy more space because it is more, the randomness is more and the uniqueness is more. It might occupy more length. It might not be the need. We might not end up in creating this many records. In many of the systems might not end up in creating this many records. So most of the times we might not even need UUIDs at all to uniquely identify a particular record. So this is we are narrowing down to the problem now. So whenever we are generating UIDs to uniquely identify a record, we should go and think, do we need this much amount of records to be persisted uniquely? Then go for UIDs. Otherwise, we need not go for these kind of UIDs. The next thing that we need to worry about is UIDs does not guarantee. When we generate a UID first time and go and generate a UID next time, it might completely result in two different IDs, and there is no guarantee that if I start these two UIDs, the first generated one will be coming first and the second will be coming second. We sort the records based on UIDs. It will not generate in time sequenced manner. Most of the time we might need have that requirement to sort the records of the IDs that we are generated based on the arrival time of the records, based on the occurrence of the events. For example, consider the case we want to trace how the entire record flow happens. A customer comes and orders an item, places the items to the cart, and then does a checkout, do the payment, and then say finish the order. Finally, the order is delivered to the customer, and then the delivery notification is also sent. So this all happens in a sequence. And if we are generating UUIDs to capture everything, assume that if I have to trace, for example, I am logging this UUID for me to understand the customer's journey in backend systems. With this UUID, we will not be just with the UUID. We will not be. We will need to have introduce something called trace ID. Use that trace ID to go and log. This is where the tracing system comes. For example, if we are using, and with that we will not be able to identify it is time sequence or not. That is also one more thing. So when we are generating IDs, if we generate IDs which are auto incremented, we will be able to know that okay, this event has occurred after this time. For example, when the order is placed at 6 p.m. and the item gets delivered by 7 p.m., the item can only get delivered post 6 p.m. not before 6 p.m. because the order is not even placed. So it would be easy for us to go and track, okay, this is the sequence which it got. Else we can easily identify that the clock has reset and it has gone back to a previous time. This all also happens in distributed systems. The network time clock can get reset and it can go back to few seconds. So that would result in the invalid time as well. So we will look into that problem later. But using UUIDs, we will not be able to find whether the IDs that we are generated, if we sort it, it will not be sortable at all. This is the problem that we need to understand. The next thing is auto incrementing IDs in identity columns. It is a very good thing that we can do. So whenever we create a record, we outsource or we take the benefit of auto incrementing IDs which are provided by any relational database systems, saying that please go and generate an ID for me and then persist this record. It is going to create an incremental even when 10 people are inserting into the record simultaneously concurrently, which is when we talk about distributed system, we also talk about concurrency. When hundreds of threads or hundreds of people are trying to insert create orders and we are using an auto increment ID, it is going to result in unique IDs all the time. So that is guaranteed. What is the algorithm? We may go and find out. There is something called high-low algorithm. If 100 people are trying to persist the record at the same amount of time, we may come and ask, is it going to give the same ID because it is an auto increment, right? So there is something called high-low algorithm. You may go and visit what is high-low algorithm. Using that, it is able to generate unique IDs. We can take of it. We can utilize it. And most of the use cases, when a requirement is not so complex, we can still live with this auto incrementing identity columns. When the number of the problem space that we are dealing it is within one table, within one entity, auto incrementing IDs are more than enough for ID generation. That's important thing that we need to understand. But what is the problem with auto incrementing IDs is so if many people have to track this based on IDs, if two domains are coming and asking for IDs, and it is not possible for a single table to give an ID back to them, because it can work only with one table and only within one databases. Two different domains cannot get an incremental IDs. For example, if somebody is using and persisting data into a different database, and I cannot come to the same database to go and fetch the next record, get next ID. because it is going to create unique ID at the time of persistence. It is totally it increments the ID as at the time of persisting of the record. So it is not in our hand how the what ID is going to get generated next. It is not in our hand. So we cannot rely on that if we have to have an unique ID across databases or across tables. That is one thing which we need to understand, but it would result in unique identifiers. Can it be correlated to the time? Probably not. Probably yes, probably not. It is going to be incremental. With that, we can say that okay, if a record is having one and then we are seeing a record two, it means that two comes after first. So first person has performed the transaction in the first. Roughly time started. We can assure that that happens, but it is not distributed because it is a single place is where it is going to generate IDs. That is the problem statement. But there are many systems which needs to generate ID, but they cannot use come to one table or backend to generate an ID, right? For example, when we are creating activity, when it comes to asynchronous systems, when we are persisting videos, all these things need IDs immediately, roughly time sorted. Also with that ID I should be able to generate that okay, this tweet came first, this tweet came second, this order came first, this order came second. But I cannot go back to the backend, go and generate an ID, give it to me. It is going to take time because the number of transactions which happens during a heavy business day, where on a sale day in Flipkart or a sale day in Amazon, or any online seller on a Christmas day sale or whatever Diwali sale or a Singles Day sale, which we can talk about in China. So any of these days will end up there will be thousands and thousands of transactions which happen in a particular moment of time. This approach of auto incrementing IDs is a bottleneck during that time, and systems cannot rely on it. So that is the problem. Now let us understand what is actually the requirement. Tell me the requirements, sir. We need to create an ID in which is distributed. Anybody can come and say that I need an ID within a particular domain. We should be able to give an ID which is roughly time sorted, and we should be able to serve thousands and thousands of requests at any point of time, and there should not be any single point of failure. This is the core problem, distributed ID generation problem. Is it possible? Is there, does there exist a real solution for this? Yes, there exists a solution for this. Can it avoid single point of failure? Yes, it can avoid single point of failure. That is what we are going to look into it. What is the other possible way? We can look into a centralized ID generation algorithm, which is similar to what is happening in the table. But we will not go to the backend to generate table because backend is another moving part, right? Uh, uh, which is a different thing. So what we can do is we can come up with an ID generation algorithm. So what are the ways that we can generate ID? We can, I think we can use time, right? Because time always increases. If you have, the requirement says that I need to have a have an ID which can be sorted. What can be sorted? Anything which is incrementing can be sorted, right? Any it is easily sortable. So it is easy to identify that what happens in the previous second, what happens in the current second. If we can record in terms of time, it is easily possible for us to sort it and easily identify from the ID that sir, this has happened before, this has happened next, because it is sorted by time. But what happens? What are the units of time when we take into account hour, minute, second, millisecond, nanosecond, microsecond, nanosecond? These are the time units which are available. What are the time units which are available for us to generate an ID? Hour is available, which is too far. Minute, not possible at all. Seconds, sometimes it is possible when we are dealing with hundreds or thousands and 10,000 requests per second. Seconds, using a second, we will not be able to uniquely identify, because if 10,000 requests come at a time, how can I uniquely generate an ID? Because for if I use second to give it, we will give only one record per second, which is 84,600 seconds, odd seconds in a day. That is the number of unique records that we can generate. What is the possibility of a millisecond? When we take about millisecond, oh good, we can generate around 1,000 records per second. Beyond that, we will not be able to generate. But our requirement is 10,000 records per second. How can we do that? That is the problem statement that we have. If we have a centralized solution, and what happens when we have a centralized solution if it is not distributed? When the centralized server fails, if we need to go and elect a new leader, I have come up with a tutorial on leader election. Please go and find it out. What is leader election? We need to have a leader. when a leader fails, you have to go and get a elect a new leader and come up with a new leader, and that leader will start serving it, and that leader also can fail at some point of time, because the nature of the distributed system, a leader may not respond, or the leader is clogged with lot of requests. We will not be able to generate IDs. If the leader, even if the time to elect a new leader is 3 seconds, and if we are looking into handling 10,000 records per second, we would be losing somewhere around 30,000 orders. 30,000 unique customers, if we lose at the time of generating IDs, people will not come back. People will go to a different retailer. So it will result in huge business loss. So that is not acceptable at all. We cannot do that. So now we understood. So what are the ways that we can add add uniqueness to the records? We have millisecond. So can we go to the nanosecond? uh, Not many systems can generate units at a nanosecond level. Software problems are also there, but fortunately Java allows. But what if two or three or hundreds of requests come at the same nanosecond? It is possible. Theoretically, it is possible, and we can also simulate such kind of request as well. So what happens, then uniqueness is lost, because that is to the nanosecond only we can go. Beyond that we cannot go. It is 10 to the power of 9 minus 9. So is there a way that we can uniquely generate an ID even at a nanosecond level? Yes, it is possible. What are the ways that we need to do? Can we add randomness by adding something called machine ID? For example, if a request comes to a machine, add that machine ID, which will add randomness to it, and then come up with it. What if two requests land in the same machine at the same nanosecond level? Then also it is not possible. So these are all the problem statements that we have, and that is what we need to solve. This is the problem statement of distributed ID generation. Although it is it took more time for us to get into the theoretical problem space, but next time when we are thinking about generating an ID, I have seen most of the time in my career, people have gone to UUIDs. I would tell to uniquely identify a record, and they have come up with a different way to go and sort the records. It is certainly not possible, right? And people also have come up with ways. Even if the UID classes, what will I do? They added a prefix to it. Now can we add do the same thing here as well? Come up with a domain, saying that if I'm looking for a order ID, I prefix ord colon or something of that sort. That also add randomness to it. But for the same type of request, at the same nanosecond from to the same machine, two records may come. Hypothetically, all these things can come. So how do we generate those IDs? We need to think. UIDs might not be feasible for every solution that we look into, because if we use UIDs as a key to Kafka partition, it will not be able to order, because it is every time you get a random UID, you will not be able to ensure that all the orders follow to these three partitions. We cannot do that. So UIDs also will occupy more space, right? For example, consider the size. Let me give a size. So let us take the example of UIDs that we are going to uniquely identify a record, right? For example, today we every day assume there is a system which generates 100 million records per day, for requests per day, and we need to capture it. For example, in a retail scenario, in a Amazon kind of retailers, or Tesco, Amazon, Flipkart, there are 100 million unique events which can occur in a day, starting from customer shopping to troubleshooting, or these kind of events will occur throughout. 100 million is a very small number. So if we need to generate 100 million unique IDs per day, and whose size is 16 bytes, which is 128 bits, if I divide by 8, we get 16 bytes, and 100 million requests which comes. So this is the size of the bytes that we have. And when I take this total bytes and divided by 1024, this is the kilobytes. 1024, this is the megabyte. So we will end up in creating we will end up in needing 1525, which is 1.5 gigabytes of memory, only for persisting UUIDs. Forget about the actual record size. So do we need this? can we come up with an ID which can support several billions of records for several years, and then reduce with a reduced memory footprint and have it sortable. This is the requirement. I'm trying to help explain the problem statement so that it is clearly understood, and that is the requirement for almost every company who is facing. For example, I am talking about Twitter, to any retailer. We should never end up in going to UUID unless we need that randomness as well as uniqueness to that level. Okay, let's go into the solution part of it. Since we talked about the problem statement a lot, we will go into solution. uh, Twitter has solved this problem using something called Snowflake. They have come up with an ID generation. The size of the ID is roughly, it not roughly, it is 64 bits. Ideally it is 63 bits. The last, the one bit is signed bit and which is not used, because if we take an integer, integer will have, if you have noticed the identity column, which we are trying to, if we have used identity column to generate IDs, auto incremental IDs, if we reach the integer that max value, it will start producing values in negative, so that it is unique, but it will come in decremental order. That time we will not be able to sort. That's why I told roughly it is possible to sort the columns by ID, but it would not result in time sort. It's sorted by time based on the identifier alone. What happens is, when we reach the maximum ID, if it is an integer, it is not an unsigned integer, right? If it is an integer, if we are given the data type is integer, and we say that identity column, if once we reach the maximum value of the integer, it will start generating IDs in minus. So what will happen is, using the minus ID, we will not be able to sort. When we sort, the minus will come first and the positive numbers will come second, right? And we sort by ascending order. So that would not give us a clear indication that which record got inserted first, which record got inserted second. So that is not possible. So that solution also will fail in certain cases. So when we are using identity column, we need to be ensuring that we use unsigned integer with a maximum value limit. So now what we can do, let me explain the solution first, and then we will let me explain the approach first, and then we will walk into what is the implementation. What we can do is, whenever a request reaches, saying that okay, and this is completely a distributed solution, we need to be aware of this. Whenever a request reaches for an ID, give me an ID, and it can come at the same time, right? we can we need to have time that is taken, because using time we will be able to get the next id. What we talked about is, we don't want to go to the nanosecond level, because there are some systems which might not support the nanosecond. We will go with millisecond level. We get the epoch millisecond, add a randomness by the machine which generates it. For example, if we are deploying the same id generator solution across 3 machines or 5 machines, what happens is, whenever 5 requests comes, or in the 10,000 requests per second, 3,500 got distributed. On an average, 3,300 will get distributed. You forget, I'm just giving a 10,000 as an example, but it may be as many number as possible. What we can do is, we can have something called sequence. Okay, whenever 2 requests comes at the same time, and we have seen the time previously, we can create a sequence which is of fixed in length. For example, we can say the sequence bits are around 10 bits. We can use it for sequence. We will talk about bits later. I'll show you how this works, which would result in 4096 values. So at any point of time, we would end up in creating an ID at the same millisecond, which is 4096. In 1 millisecond, we would be able to handle 4096 requests with the randomness of a machine with to the millisecond. So suddenly what we are coming up with, saying that okay, I will be able to generate 10,000 requests per second when my solution is deployed in 3, even 12,000 requests per second. When my solution is deployed in a load balancer in 3 machines with high availability, each server is capable of handling 4,000 requests per millisecond with the randomness of the machine ID. That is good. So assume that if we need 15,000 or 100,000 requests, we just need to scale this horizontally. We should be able to generate roughly time sorted. For example, if the machine IDs are generated in random, so it would be roughly time sorted. That is the requirement. We will have randomness. It would be sortable. So this is the solution. We have almost reached to the solution part of it. So what are we doing? First, we need to look into it. Whenever a request comes, after I explain the code, I will walk you through how the how the solution would, how we can learn from the solution, right? What and all will happen behind the scene, so that the solution is very clear. And when we use this solution to generate unique IDs, we will be very confident that we will be generating unique IDs. Let us look into this. So, as we said, we are going to generate an ID which is of 64 bit in length. One is signed bit. We will not be using it. We have 63 bits. So, using this 63 bits, we need to generate ID. So, what is the maximum value that we can generate with this 63 bits only by having auto increment? It is 9223372036854775808. It is a very big number. It is a very big number. And when we are solving a problem at Amazon scale or Twitter scale, we can use this. We can have this number as a maximum value. In that, how are we going to organize it? How are we going to uniquely generate? We will use the first 41 bits to for time, for the time which is going to auto increment, right? We capture the epoch millisecond and put that in the first 41 bits. Assume assume that and as we said, we need to add some more randomness, right? Because more than few requests may come at the same time. We use the next 10 bits, 10 bits. We use 10 bits, not next 10 bits. We use 10 bits for node ID, because that is going to add randomness. And then 12 bits for sequence. The total bits which comes to 40 51 plus 10 61 plus 2 63. The one bit is signed bit, so totally 64 bits. How are we going to do this? This is totally 64 bits. How are we storing using the bits to generate a unique ID is what is mentioned here. Then we look into the algorithm. Algorithm is it's simple if I explain it in the right way. It's not that intuitive to easily to understand, because we need to understand the problem statement. Then we will know that, okay, why do we need this ID? This is based on the Snowflake, Twitter Snowflake. It's not the Snowflake database. Twitter Snowflake ID generation algorithm. Whenever a request comes, so what is the maximum possible value we can have? Let's go to the command prompt. So what is 2 to the power of 10? So 2 to the power of 10, we need to understand what is 2 to the power of 10, what is 2 to the power of 12, what is the 2 to the power of 60, 2 to the power of 63. So 2 to the power of 63 is the value which resulted here. So 2 to the power of 10, 2x to the power of y, if I put 10, 1024, we allocate maximum number of this for node. For example, how many nodes that we can have? We can have only 1024 nodes. Forget, we can remove some 512 numbers, and we can have, we say that only half of this thing we are going to use. We can have 512 nodes which is allocated to node ID. So then we will have the sequence numbers, right? So 2x to the power of y of 12, which will result in 4096. So that is the sequence ID that we are going to. If 4096 requests come at the same millisecond, what we are going to do is, if the previous request is at the same time, I am going to increment the sequence number and give the value back. What would happen? So we would be suddenly able to handle 4096 requests at the same millisecond and add another 10 bits, which is 1024, to the node ID. We would be able to handle that many requests in a single machine at the same millisecond. So now we have suddenly scaled up our capability to serve it. So what we are doing here, check whether the node ID is in bounds. We will look into the node ID later, but what we have to look, what we are looking here is, if the generated node ID is less than 0, for example, we can say that 10 to 1024, right? If it is less than 0 or greater than the max node val, which is 1024, we are saying that okay, node ID is 0 or greater than the maximum bounds. We will not be able to use that node ID for generating the unique ID. So we are throwing an exception back. Uh, so what is the current timestamp? We are going to get the current timestamp. What is the current timestamp? We are doing the current epoch millisecond minus epoch start. What is epoch start? Why we need to subtract it? This we need to understand, because we are going to record events from the time which it has happened. Can we go and generate, if I am saying that I am going to get use only the epoch millisecond, what if in this machine the clock goes back, the in the and this machine got restarted and it came up again, it would start serving some IDs which are quite, which can be quite duplicate as well, because the clock moved back and it might result in the same ID which it generated before. What we have to do is we have to get the current epoch millisecond minus the epoch start, which is the current which is the current second where the system started, right? Whenever the system started, I am assigning this value. This is a singleton object, and I am subtracting the startup time minus the current time when the request came. So it means that we will end up in having a number which is little smaller in value. We ensure that the clock is not back. I'll tell you how are we ensuring the clock is not back as well. Uh, so we are going to generate IDs whose time will start from the current time, not from previous clock. The clock is not moved back. Okay, if this time is less, if it is less than 0, we can ensure that the clock has moved back. But this is not a valid ID. This will not result in a valid ID. We can reject those as well. That validation I have not done, but I'm saying this is how we have to do. And get the current timestamp. We are getting the current timestamp after subtracting from the start time of the machine. Uh, if the current timestamp is less than the last timestamp, what is the last timestamp? The last timestamp is -1 or 0, which we can have this as the last seen time, which at the time of persisting the loading the bringing up the service, we can record the last timestamp somewhere stored and ensure that if it is less than the last timestamp, it means that the clock has moved back. That's what I told, right? The clock has moved back. We would not be able to generate uniqueness through an exception. That's what we are throwing it here. If the current timestamp equal last timestamp, somehow or the other clock has moved back, okay, or no. If there are thousand requests, sorry, if there are thousand requests which landed on the same machine, what happens is uh, because it is a synchronized this thing, right? So we will end up in having the same ID for all these things. Here we are incrementing the sequence by 1, thereby generating a unique ID which is of 4096, right? And the max sequence is 4096, okay, which is math dot power of 2 power sequence length is 12. So we will end up in generating unique 4096 IDs. If the current sequence is 0, okay, then what happens is when we have exhausted all the time that we have all the unique IDs, all the sequence numbers that we have, wait for the next millisecond. So what is the delay here? We might end up in delaying the request. If there are 4000 requests which landed on the same machine, we would end up in delaying our ID generation by only 1 millisecond. That will ensure uniqueness, but it should not happen because it is a highly load balanced environment. Otherwise, we set the current sequence to 0. Now what we do is we would place the current timestamp in the first 41 bits. Next, we would place the generating node ID in the 10 bits, and if there is a sequence ID, we will place that in the last few. So this would be the result of the total ID. So let me go and explain with an example. For that, we need the current time in epoch. So this is the current time in epoch milliseconds. What are we going to do here? I am trying to shift this to by 22 bits, which would result in this number. So then what we need to do is get my current node ID. Assume my node ID is 1. Okay, I am doing the bit shift of node ID by, we can only generate 10 bits node ID, right? It would result in 1024. Then assume that I am having a sequence, for example 10 requests or hundreds of requests which came in the same time. So I am trying to shift that by 12 bits, which would result in 4096. I would do an OR between these two. Okay, bitwise OR, 1024 bitwise OR 4096, it is 5120. Then finally the ID would be OR of these three, 1 OR 409 5120, directly we can say, right? 120, this would be our ID. So what happens when the next time when the request comes, we will get the same time, sometime in millisecond, fix that into the first bits, and then if so many requests comes at the same time, we will do a OR with the current node ID. And if there is only one request at that point of millisecond, you would not do an OR with that ID, which would result in a roughly time sorted sequenced IDs, which is distributed. There is no single point of failure. If you have noticed it, we would be able to load balance, host this solution in a load balance environment, and whenever we get it, if we go and persist the last timestamp and then check that whether the clock has moved or not, this solution is workable. It would result in a 19 digit IDs, which is roughly time started, probably kind of incremental, not sequenced, but it's incremented. We can use it. Since it is number, it is easy for us to sort. The size is less. Consider 16 character length and the 16 alphanumeric character in 32 alphanumeric character length and 19 numeric length. It would occupy very less space. We would end up in now that we have created a beautiful algorithm which can generate unique IDs in at a scale with roughly time sorted. So this is the solution that we have. Whenever we have a problem of generating IDs, please don't go and generate UUIDs just like that and then persist it. If we need to add some more uniqueness to it, we can even prepend prepend the domain name. For example, if it is a price PR colon or whatever it is, if we can do, it would still become sortable, and we would have a way of generating this. So there are some references which I have taken it. I have looked into Twitter. I have looked into the Snowflake algorithm, which is generated by Sony. We have used it in Golang. If you are a Golang expert, please go ahead and do it. I have not done it in Golang. I'm a novice developer in Golang. And if you take a look into this Instagram post, it is very beautiful. What they have done is they have generated this unique ID algorithm at Postgres level. So they have implemented the entire algorithm in Postgres. They will call this procedure or whatever it is before persisting any data. They get a roughly time sorted ID, and they have a highly available Postgres environment. So that is also possible. You use this algorithm if you are using Postgres, and they have given the code as well. And MongoDB also uses similar kind of algorithm, but they have a little shorter ID. If MongoDB can generate unique IDs for a database at several millions of scale, we should also be doing it. Consider these approaches. But what are the cons of it? We have talked so much about this algorithm, which is highly available, uh, which is scalable, which is roughly time sorted, it is numeric. There are some problems. There are not problems, but there are potential things that we need to consider. The IDs that we are generating are not completely random. For example, if somebody can see this ID, if a hacker can see this ID, they would be able to guess what is the node ID, and they will be able to predict the next ID, because ideally it is based on time, because it is clearly known that first 41 digits are based on time. uh, the sequence ID bit, okay, it might, we might play with this sequence bit, increase or decrease the sequence bit, increase or decrease the node ID, increase or have an increment in the this the timestamp, and then we would end up in bigger or smaller. But what happens is, people, a good hacker or a good security analyst would be able to predict the next ID given a set of IDs which are generated by us. Although it is not random, it is not using any secure random here. The only thing that we can have add a randomness here is coming up with a secure random node ID. We can use a secure random number generator to have a node ID which is a little bigger in length, but that's not the requirement here, right? So usually people will be able to predict the next ID. So we need to consider, have that in mind while we are generating. If our requirement is not to create a secure random unique ID, we should be using this. If the secure comes into picture, if the secure doesn't come into picture, we can still live with this ID that we have talked about. So I'm just trying to look into a sample tweet ID, right? I told this is based on Snowflake algorithm. Twitter is also using this similar algorithm to generate IDs. Let's compare this with our ID length that we have created here. Probably we'll also did not run. We will run and see what is the output of it. I will run this. It will take time. Sometime by the time we'll go and see whether Postman is ready. I've given a port ID. Let's hold on for a second. It's compiling. It started. Let's go and get an ID. Okay, we got this ID. I think it will be okay. I'll not be able to press enter. Let's go to IntelliJ IDEA and see what is the ID that we have. This is the ID that we have, and let's go to here. This is the tweet ID that we have. We say we both the IDs are same in length. Okay,